What is up, everybody? Renfail here. Hopefully you're doing well and still having a great time with Atomfall. Today we're diving into the ultimate beginner's guide to the game, helping new players and perhaps those of you who might have struggled during your first playthrough get the most out of the game with some tips and tricks that I found useful, some of which I discovered on my own, and other things the community were kind enough to share with me along my journey through the game during our first live stream playthrough. If you didn't already know, I do this for a living. Daily streams kick off on YouTube and Twitch every single day at around 5 a.m. Central. We do a couple of streams a day, about 6 hours in the morning and another couple few hours in the afternoon. And I play a lot of games, so hopefully you'll check all of those other things out. But in the meantime, this one's all about Atomfall, and there's an Atomfall playlist you can find out down below if you want to know more about the game. Plus, this video is broken down into chapters, so if you've already seen a section or you want to pause the game, go play the game, come back, pick it up, find another chapter. You can find all those links down below. So without further ado, let's get into this beginner's guide to Atomfall designed for new players. Game difficulty is one of the most important things to pay attention to in this game because it is a little bit different than many other games. There is, of course, a generalized playstyle listing at the start of the game where you can go in and sort of have, one setting that sort of defines all of the different lists below: combat, survival, and exploration. But if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of things, you're going to want to get into the customized playstyle section and go down through each of the individual sections: combat, survival, and exploration, and you'll find that you can adjust every single one of these overall trees with individual settings within each tree. So there's a ton of stuff you could tweak in this game. And this is something where I know, for example, when I started playing the game, I started it on recommended, which was survivor. I eventually bumped it down to investigator, which drops the combat difficulty but keeps the exploration at that challenging level. And then eventually, over time, by the time I was about 3/4 of the way through the game, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to drop everything down to sightseer. And that made my personal experience much more enjoyable. Now, it's entirely up to you how you customize. You can go in and literally set every single thing that you want. So don't hesitate to play around with these things. You can do that at the start of the game, but you can also do it at any point in the game, and it's on the fly, so you don't have to worry about just pausing the game, opening it up, and going through. I have a fully dedicated guide around the settings, so if you want to check that out, don't forget to check the playlist down below for more information on all of the different settings that you can adjust and how to get the most out of them. Things happen at a rapid pace in Atomfall, and you're going to want to make sure you take advantage of quick saving the game as often as you can. Now, I'm playing the game on the Xbox, so to do that, you just hit the menus button here, and you can click the save game. That'll do a manual save. I recommend doing this anytime that you think you might be getting into trouble, but really just get in the habit of opening this up and doing it. You can also go into the options and set the autosave frequency down to 1 minute. I would highly recommend doing this so that you don't get too far ahead of yourself out there in the wild, because you will find yourself getting into really sticky scenarios. I would also, however, highly recommend doing manual saves at least once an hour, because there are a lot of scenarios where you might want to try a different path throughout the game. And when you go back and do your loads, the way the game actually shows you these load files is you can go in here and see I've got a save slot here, a save slot here, a save slot here. So, I didn't quite do them every hour, but I have gone through and saved every few hours, creating sort of manual points beyond which there might be a decision that I decide I don't like. But in my case, I liked all the decisions I made, so I never felt compelled to go back. But if you're someone who wants to scum save and scum load and, try something out and then reload, make sure to take advantage of the saves, the actual manual saving, because it actually lists them as save slots. Versus having the auto saves, which can happen however frequently you want them to. Again, you can customize those between 1 minute. I think the max is 15. Oh no, it says every 30, or I guess it goes up. I've never actually adjusted that. So you can do increments: 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 60, or 1, 2, 3, 4. I think the default is like 3, which is pretty good, but you can adjust that as you want. There's lots of things that can happen in this game, lots of different choices you can make, so I recommend saving extremely frequently. So stealth gameplay is a part of the game, starting from the very beginning. When you first come out into the garage area, you will find enemies that you can sneak around. And you'll find that some areas, I don't think there's any in here, but outside there are some grass areas that you'll be able to get into where you can actually crouch down and sneak through, and you'll actually see where it says your character is hidden. So take advantage. Let's see if we can go out here real quick and show you some of that grass. I don't know if there's any grass right outside the front door. But sneaking around is going to be very important to your survival, especially in the early hours of the game, because of the fact that there are so many enemies who may or may not be looking out and trying to find you. So over here is what a patch of grass looks like. When you get over here into the grass, you can crouch down and it says hidden at the top. You can use this to your advantage, although bear in mind that if an enemy is actively searching for you, or if they get too close to you, even while you're hidden, you will be detected and they will come after you. So it's not, a fail-safe. It's just that you can use this to your advantage in terms of getting around. But you also have to pay attention to movement patterns of your enemies, different, and if you fire a loud weapon from within this grass, it's not going to matter. They're still going to be able to find you. So, the way I played my character is I actually put points into the stealth gameplay, and over time got better at being stealthy. But when you start the game, you're not going to have that at your disposal, so you do need to just slow it down a notch. Use the crouch button to your advantage, and then anytime you find grass like this or bushes, get into it because it'll hide you, especially when you're dealing with enemies that can see from quite a distance away. It's pretty important to understand that Atomfall is not a shooter. You can find weapons in the game. In this case, I have a variety of different weapons at my disposal. Taking screenshots over here. So if I wanted to go in here and that was the button I was looking for. Check out the guns that I currently have. I have a battle rifle, which is a semi-automatic sniper rifle. I have a semi-automatic shotgun. I have a bow and arrow, and then I have a semi-automatic pistol. There are lots of different weapon types that you can choose from, but ammo, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily scarce, but it's not going to be something that's easy to find. So I never felt like I was running low on ammo, but the way that I played the game was kind of exploring every nook and cranny. And when you take the time to explore every nook and cranny in the game, you're going to be finding plenty of ammo. And I'll talk more about that a little bit later on in the video. But the big thing is that ammo is not something where you can just go find it all the time. You will occasionally find it at traders and you can barter for it. But for the most part, you're going to be scavenging ammo in the wilds. So there is also a cap at how much ammo you can carry. So what I ended up doing was I would use a weapon until I started running low on that ammo, and then I would switch over and start using a different weapon until I started running low on that ammo, and then switch over to a different, and then a different. I prioritized the bow and arrow because that was my playstyle, was a sneaking playstyle, so sneaking around using stealth to my advantage and shadows and everything else, and then the bow is very silent, so that helped me play to those strengths. But you can obviously pick whatever type of weapon you want to. Just bear in mind that ammo is something you need to be conscious about because you won't be able to just run and gun through this game. You do have to actually pay attention to ammo types. There are caps of the types of ammo you can use, and of course the types of weapons you can get. There's semi-automatic, there's single fires, there's like single shot shotguns, double barrel shotgun, there's a semi-automatic shotgun. Lots of different options, but remember, ammo is limited and you'll need to be switching through your guns to get the most out of all the different types of ammo that you find in the field. Atomfall is a game of exploration, and there's no guided experience. There is a compass which you can turn off if you want to, but there is no mini-map. You can access a map by going into the options and looking at this map, but the big thing here is that when you first get the map, I'm showing a map that's a little later on to the game, and so I see these waypoints that have pointed me to different exits and entries that I have found. When you're first getting going in the game, it's going to be a blank space. And the big thing is that every single little nook and cranny in this map, whether it's something that leads to another area or not, there are lots of caves and hidden nooks and crannies. Those are the places where you're going to be finding things like ammo, bandage materials, different types of weapons, different types of crafting materials, potions, things that you're going to be using for that. So it's going to behoove you to take the time to explore every single map, and there are multiple maps in this game. So if you really want to get the most out of the game experience, you're going to want to explore every single nook and cranny, because going out across the landscape, you will have some point A to point B explorations. But like you come out here and it's like, well, I can go down or I can go up. Looking at the map, you're going, well, do I want to go to the left or want to go to the right? Let's go to the right. Run up in here. Suddenly you find yourself entering some caverns and there's things to explore up in here. And then you realize that as you're in the caverns, there's like 3 or 4 different exits from the caverns that lead to different areas. And you'll quickly find that as you get deeper and deeper into this game, you're going to find lots of entry and exit points to all the different zones from areas that connect. But also within those areas are going to be lots of little hidden nooks and crannies where you're going to find all the little essentials. And it's not just about ammo, it's also going to be about things like the skill books and the learning potions, which help you get better and get more abilities as you level your way through the game. So make sure to explore every nook and cranny and don't just rush through the game. So Atomfall actually has a pretty robust crafting system that reminds me a lot of the Last of Us games. You're gathering things like chemicals, herbs, cloths, glass pieces, going through here, alcohol, iodine, spores, so on and so forth. And all of these things can, gunpowder, glue, these can be used to create a wide variety of items, from things like sticky bombs to the strange tonic, which gives you an infection resistance, to painkillers, which give you damage resistance buff, poison bombs, radiation resistance, combat stems, burn salves, bandages, these are probably the most important thing you're going to be able to make is going to be bandages. Antidotes, not so much. I would argue that I made more Molotov cocktails and bandages than I did anything else in the game. But because there is a limited amount of materials that you can carry, notice across the top, there's all those numbers, right? Well, there's a cap of different things. So at some point, you're going to hit the cap in terms of the amount of things, like cloth as an example. You can only ever carry 20 of cloth at any given time. So in order to get the most out of the crafting system, you need to be constantly crafting things and using them, because at some point, if you're not using things, you're sort of leaving behind stuff in the environment that's just going to go to waste because you're not actively using it, and then you're going to forget that it was there, and you'll get 2, 3, 4 hours down the road and be like, dang it, I ran out of cloth. Where did I find all that cloth? Well, it was way back there. You should have used it when you had it. So don't be afraid to take the time to craft anything that you can find as you go through the game, because this is going to help you survive, especially if you're on the harder difficulties in the game, but also because it will help you actively use your ingredients and resources, which do have a finite stackable size limit. So you want to get the most out of that. So don't hesitate to craft items as often as you can. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload, or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. So the heart rate meter is an interesting feature in this game. It reminds me a little bit of the Sniper Elite games that Rebellion does, but essentially if you look at the bottom right now, as I'm moving around, there's a heart meter that's going up because I'm actively engaged in something. And if you jump, the heart meter goes up. If you run, the heart meter goes up as well. And you'll eventually get to the point where if your heart meter gets too high, you won't be able to do certain activities, such as swing your melee or jump, or even sprint. You won't be able to do those things. And when you're in a scenario where you're engaged with a variety of enemies and trying to survive, whether it's a swarm or lots of NPCs, there is a strategic element to knowing when to use your melee attacks and burn up get your heart rate going, and when you need to back away from the heart meter and be like, you know what, I need to switch over to a gun because I'm getting my butt kicked. And I need to make sure that I survive this, so let's switch to a gun, use this for a few minutes, let my heart rate get back down, then switch back over to the melee and continue to melee this way. And this applies to all melee weapons. It applies to all sprinting. It applies to all running. All these activities raise your heart rate. Now you can get supplies that will allow you to moderate your heart rate, and you can also get skills that will help you have a better control of your heart rate. But this is an active element that you do have to manage during combat in particular. It doesn't really matter so much during exploration, but it does matter in combat scenarios or in situations where you're trying to get away. Pretty early on in the game, I came across, I believe it was a swarm of rats, or it was a swarm of like piranha fish. And one of the things it told you is if you look down and hit the L button, you will squash. This is very important because you're going to come across swarms periodically in the game, and they're going to range. There's going to be things like bees, bats, crows, rats, fish. There's some other ones that I'm missing. Oh, there's like some creepy crawly like spider critters, and some of them are ground, some of them are air. So you can use your melee weapon like your bat to take care of swarms, but you're also going to need to pay attention to stomping on the ground to keep them from climbing up your legs, biting you to death, and they will cause things like radiation and poison and so on and so forth, and that can be deadly. So when dealing with swarms, some swarms will be finite in the sense that they come at you, you kill the swarm like bats, and you're done. Other swarms, like rats as an example, or the piranha fish, are going to have a spawn point, and it will be, you'll notice it in the environment, it'll be glowing blue, and you just kind of have to follow the trail of where these enemies are coming from. If you do not take the swarm out, if you don't take the swarm nest out, they will just keep coming in endless waves. You can run away from most swarms, and they will eventually drop off and leave you alone, but just don't forget that you can use your wiffle bat, your cricket bat. I say wiffle bat, it's a cricket bat. You can use any melee weapon, but you can also stomp, so don't forget. You can also look down and use your melee weapon to do this, but it pays it. You have to pay attention to the fact that you can also, it's not just about, if you're looking up, it does a kick movement. If you're looking down, it does a stomp movement. So bear that in mind because there are a variety of ways you can help yourself survive the swarm attacks. So the skills area is one interesting aspect of the game in the sense that this kind of changes depending on how when you play, because there's an RNG element to when you find the books and where you find the different learning potions, as they were. So the first thing you have to do is when you first start the game, you're only going to have a couple of abilities to choose from. I believe it's the weapon throw training and the kick stun duration. And the way this works is if you look here, there's question marks, like right here. Those question marks are filled if you find a book that has those skills in them. So what you're on the lookout for are skill books. Now, skill books are important because they fill in these gaps, but it's not just about the skill books. It's also about the learning potions that you're going to find. Now, throughout the game, you're going to find these things called bard boxes. There's these orange yellow boxes you're going to find. They always have one skill potion, learning potion in them, but you'll also find them throughout the game. You'll get them from quests and so on and so forth. And each one of these abilities requires a certain amount of learning potions to be used. So in this case, surprise attack requires you to have 5 of those to unlock. I currently have 3 right now, so I think I could unlock like this one. Increased damage caused by melee weapons. I could choose to purchase that because it only costs 2. Now, here's the thing. When you play the game one time, you might find the book for these stealth abilities on a certain vendor. But the next time you play the game, you might not find the skill book at that vendor because there is an RNG element to where you find the books. So one of the things that's very important is as you're playing through the game is if you're trying to reach if you're trying to apply a certain playstyle to your character, you are going to want to save your learning potions for when you find the relevant skill book that allows you to inject those skills into your character. And once you've learned those skills, you can then take the learning potions to apply those to the individual skills and actually train those and be able to get your abilities from there. And these are all basically passive things like slows your heart rate down, you have higher recovery, low health regeneration is faster, and you store more health, increased maximum amount of health. That was a very big one for me. And there's things like, marksmanship here or the bow. Do you want to be focusing on firearms or the bow for your gameplay? So there's lots of different ways you can go through here. Just remember that skill books have an RNG element to them in terms of where you find them, and then you need the learning potions to be able to actually train the skills that you find in those books. So trade in Atomfall is quite different than many other games where you have some form of currency. Instead, everything in this game is based around bartering. And this comes back to the RNG element that we talked about before. As an example, this guy has a skill book. allows consumable skills to be purchased. So I might want to purchase that. Now, if I come back to him later on in the game, he might not have that. And if I come back with a different character, he might not have that book. So when you find books like this, or if you find things like poison bomb things, ingredient, crafting blueprints, that's the word I'm looking for, that you don't have, you might want to trade for those. But when you put something in, you're going to notice that the barter swings one way. So if I put this in here, that means right now that he has put something in it, but I have not. So I need to add things of an equivalent value to make the balance be equal. So I would need to go through here and go, well, what do I have that he might want? And you're going to notice that that's going to start to sway the meter in his direction. And I would need to go through here and put things in here that would get me to the point where it does that right there, and then I can then complete the trade. This is why, and again, this comes back to the game having a finite amount of stackable resources. You also have a finite amount of inventory space that you can have. So it's very important to continually be picking things up and bringing them to the merchants so that you can use them to barter for things like crafting ingredients, books they might have, so on and so forth. And even if you've already learned a skill book, they're worth a lot of value because you can have it in your inventory and take it back to a merchant who, because you don't need it. You've already got the skills in that skill book, but then you can use that to barter for other things. So every single item in this game has value in it to it and can be used to barter for other things in the game. So don't forget to always be looting, although you have to pay attention to your finite inventory space. So there you have it, everyone. That is my beginner's guide to Atomfall for new players. Hopefully that helps you along on your journey and helps you get the most out of the game. Don't forget also, when you're going through the game, don't be afraid to take your time and explore things, because around every nook and cranny is a different thing, and there's a lot of RNG in this game. So the decisions you make are going to be wildly different. Your second playthrough versus your third playthrough versus your friend's playthrough versus the favorite streamer that you watched play through the game. So understand that this is not a game about having a finite amount of endings. It's a game where there are many different outcomes based upon the playstyle that you choose. So go forth, have fun. Don't get radiated. There's stuff going on here. Be safe out there. And don't forget to check out the next videos and streams that we do every single day, bright and early at around 5 a.m. Central on YouTube and Twitch. We will see you all then. Until next time, stay safe, everybody. Enjoy.